to be green, but really giving information about fiber content, about recyclability, about maintainability, about where it's made, how it's shipped, how far it's coming. I mean, all of those questions that designers are asking now, what happens to it at the end of its useful life, and is there a reclamation policy? I mean, anything that answers some of those basic questions about sustainable design and architecture is really, really helpful. And I think I am tired of people talking about green being a fad. I think that is, green may be a fad. Yeah. I mean, green may be a fad as a word, but the idea of being mindful of your materials is not a fad.
Couldn't agree more with that one. Dana, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what Susan said. I mean, there's not much more to say. It's, you know, we always, you know, we tell the manufacturers always to be truthful and relevant. You know, that's what, you know, the architects and designers want. Everybody can see through the fluff, you know, and you know, it's even bigger than the products. It's what can, you know, architects and designers still want to know, you know, that what's the corporate culture of the companies that's producing the products. You know, what are they doing? Are they saving water? How are they producing the projects? Are they saving energy? So it's so much past, you know, just the product, but you know, it's not going away. It's what's right, and it's what everybody, you know, if they're not involved in it, then they're way behind the curve, and you know, it's just what's expected these days.
I agree.
I also think that, you know, sometimes people get really wrapped up in, you know, is it LEED Platinum, is it LEED Gold, and, you know, sometimes, especially in the work that we do, sometimes that's not even relevant because, you know, it's good to have it as a standard, but in the international work, and I'm speaking for Architecture for Humanity, you know, some of these standards in the context that we work in are not applicable or are not attainable. So, you know, to kind of just put yourself in that box and think that that's the only way that, you know, your building can be green or the only way to attain that, I think is a big mistake. And, you know, just being open to local solutions, again, sometimes solves that problem.
I think I mean, I agree with that completely. What is really interesting to me about LEED is that when architects began to ask those basic 5 questions, everything from land use to materials to water to energy, that things changed drastically. So, and LEED is now a marketing part of real estate, which is actually very good for the society because people are expecting higher performing, more energy conscious, less polluting, less VOC full buildings than they ever have. So I think I don't mind it being sort of used as a marketing area for real estate because then the expectations of healthier, better, higher performing buildings are there for everyone. I think that it would be really important to get to the next level of architectural and product understanding, that it is not about checkpoints and metrics, but it is about a way of practice, and I think we're beginning to see some of that and some of the net zero buildings that are being built that are really trying very hard to produce their own energy, to clean their own water, to grow some plant life so that you know, it cools things down, to use all the resources in a more organic way, and at the same time the building can be incredibly high tech. So it's not about going back to the farm. It's about bringing the farm into the high technology. And I just think that it's really interesting how the next few years will shape up. And what's also very interesting to me that the federal government, through President Obama's executive order, is really trying very hard to upgrade all its huge building stock and make it perform better, which is almost like they caught on. And I think when those thousands, millions of square feet of buildings have caught on to green and are practicing it, and are using it as, to promote their high performance, I think that's a really, really good sign.
That's all really good feedback. Thank you for that. Susan, this next one is for you. From the media perspective, how have you seen this design, well, we're calling it trend here, but as we've discussed, evolve over the last several years? And do you see this as something that's layered on top of sustainable building practices as a new thought process? And we've answered some of this, but if you could expand on that.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting, we have tried to cover design that is not for the luxury clients and not for the corporate clients for ever since I've been here, or even before I came to Metropolis. Metropolis is going to be 30 years old next year, and my anniversary, my 25th anniversary is coming up. So we've been talking about. Thank you. We've been talking about some of these issues. I think one of the things is that there was a lot of sort of doing good for doing good's sake, and that's really lovely, and that's a very nice impulse. But I think we touched on this a little bit, that this is more a generational and cultural thing now, that you have a generation of socially connected, tech-savvy, environmentally aware, and community-oriented people coming into design schools and public schools and schools all over the country that are very different from anybody else, or my generation. I mean, I'm the baby boom that basically sort of was the part of the youth quake of the 60s, and we kind of shook the world up, but then we disappeared into corporate life. So, and these kids are very, very connected to these ideas, and they demand it in school. I was just in an interior design school yesterday in New York, and this school used to be a very sort of luxury place, and their students demand humanitarian design practice, and they demand things that they can do within communities with interior design. So I mean, this is a very different time, and people like to talk about it being a continuum, and it is, but it's newer. It's newer than that. It's more heartfelt. It's more widespread. It's more generational. So I think that is really important. And then also don't forget the social networking part of all of this. People like to share what they do. I mean, I just talked to a bunch of interior architects and designers, and they told me that the way they work is they have two social networking sites open on their computers all the time, and it's not just about sharing what you had for lunch, but talking about you know, what the sustainable qualities of a material are that they're looking for. They're networking. They're networking about issues that they're working on, and I think that's very new. That's very different, and the information gets out much faster and in a much more personal way, and you can't underestimate the power of that.
No, that's obviously a great opportunity for them to share information about new products that they found or new, things they're working on, and that's definitely exciting. Well, it sounds like from what you're saying, my next question was really, what does the role of humanitarian design and architecture have in the future? And it sounds like it's definitely got a ton of growth and here to stay. So, as this is our final question, I'd kind of like everybody to speak to that a little bit. Barb, would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Going back to what I said in the beginning about globalization, and also thinking about that fact that, most people are going to be living in cities and are than ever before, and, we really have to look at what that's going to look like, and, hopefully how we're not going to continue damaging the environment as we do that. And I think that that's something that, will not disappear, because I think it's on everybody's mind, and everybody, is looking toward making life better for themselves and for everybody else, because I think at this point it's like we're all kind of in it. I don't think you can really separate them over here and us over there. Like, we're all part of this, and I think that that's the only way that we can move forward if we want to do it in a way that is careful and respectful.
And I think we're all becoming very mindful of the fact that societies that allow a needy underclass that is underperforming, underactive, underchallenged, underserved is in danger, because you cannot have a large segment of the population hide away from the rest of them, no matter how many gated communities you build. So I think it's really important to think about the whole community, the whole society as a whole, and think about those needs. Think about those interchangeable things that everybody needs to connect to someone who maybe isn't their class or isn't their race or isn't their religion, because we face one another in cities, especially every day on the street. I mean, if as Barb was saying, if we're getting more urban and having lived an urban life, you know that you're incredibly tied to your neighbor and you're very aware of them. So you can't jump into your car and escape from them. You are facing each other on the subway, on the buses, on the streets, and you are rubbing up against each other in an urban environment that requires you to pay attention much more than if you could escape into some nice grassy suburbia. So I think because of that tendency, I think that this kind of design, more aware design of larger community needs and more people being served by design, is incredibly healthy, and basically that's what the Bauhaus had in mind. So we might actually be realizing the vision of modernism that came to us in the early 20th century, that we then dismissed and created this sort of international style that became nothing and sort of built the world. And so I think we're getting away from that, and sustainability has pulled us into thinking a lot more complex ways than we ever have about design. And I think part of equity is part of sustainability. So human equity is really, really part of the sustainability movement.
Very good point. Dana?
Yeah, I mean, it goes along with what they both have said. I think Susan mentioned that, this movement is generational and cultural, and so anytime, it's that, it's going to be around, and it's just a new, it's just a new thought process, and, I'm sure it will continue. And on a humanitarian level, I think we will all continue to, to want to help each other and do what's right, and create structures that, are self-sustaining and are, good for the environment. So I see, this humanitarian design effort, layered on top of sustainable, and I just see it has endless possibilities. So it's just very exciting to see it unfold.
Seems like it's all coming together. Well, it's definitely a very exciting time for sure. So, that kind of ends our questions for now. I'd like to thank you all for your input. That was incredibly relevant information and very insightful. Thank you so much. If we did not answer any of your questions, we'll follow up via email. And thank you so much again for your time. Thank you to all the panelists. That was wonderful, wonderful information. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for letting us be part of this.
Thank you for joining us. Great stuff. Okay.